the U.S. has been really rather holding the Palestinian case and issue to one standard and the rest of the world to another standard for a long time. So is the West, by the way. Okay, and it's very unfortunate because international rules and international law is very clear. The U.S. and the rest of the world should really think about these kids that were killed in the last 48 hours, 17 years old, 16 years old, kids, really, teenagers. And think about their situation in the refugee camp in Jenin. Really, as leaders of the world, come and think what this generation has been up to. How they grew up in a refugee camp the size of, actually 1/3 of the size of Hyde Park here, less than half square kilometer, 24,000 people. Those people are refugees. They were ethnically cleansed from their homes during the Nakba events in 1947-49. These kids watching their grandparents and the stories of losing their homes and what became Israel and their farms and their livelihoods, and then seeing their parents being arrested and killed, and then having this sense of helplessness and hopelessness, watching the world not caring, no interest, no accountability. We need to think about these kids. We are ought to think about the state of utter hopelessness and helplessness. It's very dangerous. And this isn't just the Jenin refugee camp. Israel always single out one city. You know, now they are bombarding Gaza. It's also Gaza. It's also Nablus. It's also Hebron. It's also Jerusalem. It's all over. So it's very regrettable that Israel now has only one choice, which is violence. Exercising violence against our people.
Okay, so describing how you did the lives of some of these kids, is that why some of them grow up to be terrorists?
I'm not so sure if this is the term we need to use, really. I think they are the victims, so are the parents and grandparents. And so long as Israel thinks that it's only bullets and rockets that will deal with these issues,
stop piling weapons.
We'll keep at it. The source of all this is military occupation. Okay, if you are under military occupation, imagine here, the UK has never been under occupation. It's an island, isolated. People tried, other countries tried, but imagine if you are under such a situation whereby a foreign state is controlling your life. So, you know.
So how would you describe the Jenin Brigade? How would you describe them?
Taking your land. No, the important thing is not to describe this and that and the reaction. Okay, the important thing is to think. You know, you want to simplify it. You want to simplify. Is the Palestinian territory occupied? It is, as per international consensus and the UK policy. Does Israel exercise war crimes, as in the case of settlement expansion? It does. As in the case of apartheid and racial domination? It does.
But that's what Amnesty, about the Jenin Brigade,
that's what Amnesty International says here.
Let me talk to you about, let me get a word in edgeways. The Jenin Brigade, it's an armed group. It was formed a couple of years ago. They have been blamed for attacks on Israeli civilians, 28 Israeli civilians killed in the last year already. What would you have Israel do as a country when they have this sort of activity on their border?
To stop thinking that it will have security with the continuation of the subjugation of the entire nation, with the oppression.
So violence is the only option?
No. It's peace that is the only option. It's the adherence to international law. It's the equal application of rules on everybody.
So what was peaceful yesterday about ram raiding Israeli civilians who were having a coffee in the sunshine? What was peaceful about that?
Well, our strategy is very clear, Kay. Our strategy, as in the Palestinian official side, the Palestinian government, the leadership, is non-violent resistance. That's our strategy. We adhere to international law. We revert to international institutions like the ICC and the ICJ. We want to create accountability in the most peaceful means. We want countries to actually take up their responsibilities seriously, like banning settlement products. So we undermine the economic visibility of this beast.
Do you feel the Jenin Brigade is under your umbrella, though?
The Jenin Brigade and all other brigades are under the umbrella of one thing, that is the military occupation. If the one sitting in front of you is the Ukrainian ambassador, you would be supporting the request for arms You would be supporting the request for international investigations. You will be hailing their resistance, I'm sure, I'm certain. But in the Palestinian case, we are always confused.
No, what I'm trying to do is to try to get you to make me understand why you say that it's peaceful purpose of your organisation, and then we see somebody who's women sitting having a coffee and they're ram raided by a vehicle. Would you condemn that sort of action?
You see, I don't know who's this person. I don't know what happened.
Does it matter?
No, I don't know. I don't know what happened. Here is what I know. I know that he was executed in his head while he was absolutely fatally injured by a civilian, an Israeli bypasser. That was live on TV. I know that the Israeli Minister of National Security, Ben-Gvir, came out and said, I want every Israeli civilian to be armed. The war of the jungle and, chaos in Israel now by this fanatical government. And I know our position is we want to revert to popular nonviolent resistance. And therefore, always in the discussion, Kay, you are very prominent journalist. You have many followers. I know the impact of your program. And we have got to focus on the root cause. What causes all this? And for a long time, the international mainstream media focuses on the react by some individuals, not the act of an organized.
Let me ask you more widely. Do you condemn violence on both sides?
Well, I condemn the continuous state of military oppression for 56 years.
My question, Mr.
56 years. Nobody condones violence. No one.
So you condemn it?
I decided to pursue a career in diplomacy. So I apply diplomatic means to present the case of my people. So you're talking to a person who believes passionately in the nonviolent means. But guess who's blocking us? Who's blocking us from using venues like the International Criminal Court or the International Court of Justice?
Just to be clear, are you condemning the Tel Aviv attack?
You go back all the time to these questions, and
that's because you haven't answered it with respect, Mr. Ambassador.
You go back and you do the same thing again and again, Kay.
Just answer the question and we can move on to other questions.
I cannot condemn something that I have no information on.
Okay, let me ask you, do you condemn the fact that 28 Israeli civilians have been killed by Palestinians, armed group of Palestinians over the last year? Do you condemn that?
Yeah, well, listen. How can I explain to you that the main source of violence is the continuation of the occupation? Have you heard of Muhammad al-Tamimi, a child of 2.5 years old? A few weeks ago, he was in the hands of his father in a small, peaceful village, Nabi Saleh. They were going to visit their relatives, and then all of a sudden, his father was shot and the child was shot. The child died by Israeli soldiers. There was no gunman around. Muhammad al-Tamimi is a little child that used to love nature, by the way, going with his father. His family is very prominent. Muhammad al-Tamimi is one of 24 Palestinian children killed the last 6 months by Israeli soldiers. 190 Palestinians were killed. So if we want to talk about numbers, I don't think the Israeli side will win the argument.
No, I'm not.
And that's why. I'm
asking you to condemn violence on both sides. Is what I'm asking you to do, Mr. Ambassador, if possible.
I refuse the premise of the question to draw any symmetry between the occupied and the occupier, the oppressed and the oppressor. 2
British young girls, sisters, were killed by an armed Palestinian group over the last 6 months,
the colonized and the colonizer, the besieged and the besieger. There is no symmetry. There is no symmetry whatsoever. And that's why this both-sidism, Kay, that has gone on. You tell us. You tell me.
I ask the questions if you don't mind. I'm not suggesting that there is. What I'm saying to you, Mr. Ambassador, is would you like today on this programme to condemn violence on both sides?
I would like today on this programme to say I would like peace to prevail. I would like international resolutions to be implemented. I would like international legality to be enforced. And I would like Israel's occupation and oppression of my people.
You wouldn't like to condemn violence on both sides?
I don't understand the question. I really, Kay, don't understand the question. I don't understand the question. For more than 75 years, since Britain issued its infamous Balfour Declaration, promising our land without consulting us to another people. Since then, the Palestinian people have been subjected to atrocities, war crimes, crimes against humanity consistently over the years. And then I sit here and I sit in many interviews and they want to talk only about violence. They only want to talk about the react of some individuals, not the root cause of it. And this gets me frustrated. That's why I started by pointing out that what would you do? What would the world do? What would your viewers do? What would you do? You're sitting there with no hope, watching the world giving up on you, applying different standards, hypocrisy, selectivity. Your land is being annexed. Your resources are being stolen. You are unable to travel. You are being killed at will at checkpoints and by settlers and settler violence. You are unable to travel or move. You have no rights. No rights. No rights.
So armed conflict.
You have no rights.
So armed conflict is the only way out.
What would you do? No, it's not armed conflict. It is the enforcement of international will. The two-state solution was never a Palestinian demand. The two-state solution was a Palestinian concession to ally ourselves with international consensus. And since then, we have signed numerous peace accords, and none of it was respected by Israel, including what we have achieved only a few weeks ago via the US, the Sharm el-Sheikh and the Aqaba. And the US said, no unilateral acts. And look at this Israeli government. What will it take, Kay, for the UK and the rest of the world to take action against Israel? It will take a Ben-Gvir and Smotrich. Okay. With such a fanatical government in Israel now, when will the world say enough is enough? When? With such a person like Smotrich, who denies the very existence of the Palestinian people, when will we say that Israel is no exception?